What you need in the building? What's happening, people? As you can see from the title, Shakur Stevenson, he checks Dontae's Boxing Nation. I just looked at Dontae's Boxing Nation's video, and I just saw Shakur Stevenson's response. And I agree with Shakur. I like Dontae's Boxing Nation, but I don't always agree on everything that Dontae's Boxing Nation posts up. And one of the things that happens when you got agendas and narratives is sometimes you say things and you forget that the whole objective that you have, you're being counterproductive with it because you're basically throwing somebody under the bus, uh, which is not what you really want to do to accomplish your objective. You know, Dante's came up with this theory that Shakur Stevenson is trying to corral the Mexican fan base by talking highly about Bam Bam, Jesse Bam Rodriguez. Um, but from as long as I know Shakur Stevenson, he's spoken highly about boxers, period. Who he, like he said, he saw the skills in them. Okay, Shakur has no agenda, you know, as Dontae's trying to make him seem like he has. Shakur has said positive things about Canelo. He said positive things about Tyson Fury. So I don't really. Devin Haney's done the same thing. He said positive things about Canelo. Clarissa Shields said positive things about Canelo. A lot of people said positive things about Canelo. Um, and apparently Dontae has a problem with that. You know, I've noticed that Dontae's Boxing Nation, they are very anti-Canelo, like almost like pushing an agenda to, you know, go at Canelo almost. Same thing happened with Tyson Fury to some degree. Don't get me wrong. A lot of the material that Dante's Boxing Nation and all of these other new media channels and black media channels and so on they do have truth in them. Don't get me wrong. But in this case, once again, you know, what is your purpose? Isn't your purpose to, make sure that black fighters get a fair shake in boxing? Then why are you disrespecting this black fighter in Shakur Stevenson to make your point? Isn't that counterproductive? He's trying to say that Shakur should stay on a sort of code, as they say, on code. You know, he shouldn't be praising, you know, Bam Bam Rodriguez. But you have to understand what Jesse Rodriguez did. Jesse Rodriguez jumped up 2 weight classes from light flyweight on a moment's notice, on a week's notice, and took the fight with Carlos Cuadras. And beat Carlos Cuadras, dropping him in the process. You gotta have skills to do that. You gotta have skills to do that. And me being a southpaw myself, I appreciate the skills. Um, and then he went on to beat Soran Visa, who hasn't been knocked out in almost his entire career. He hasn't been knocked out. I mean, he was knocked out, I think, in his first two fights. But other than that, he's never been knocked out. This is a strong, you know, powerful. Yeah, he's about 35 years of age, but still strong, powerful, big super flyweight that Jesse Vargas, you know, broke down. He broke him down, and then he got him out of there. It's very, very impressive. Very, very impressive. Whether Jesse Vargas was white, black, gray, yellow, Asian, it doesn't matter what he was. It's just impressive. Okay? Skills pay the bills, and we have to respect skill when we see it. Because we are boxing fans first. And Shakur is a boxing fan. And as a southpaw, and as Shakur is a southpaw himself, and I watch Shakur, I study Bam Bam, I study Paul Spadafora. I put up a piece on Paul Spadafora in one of the groups. I study southpaws, you know. So once you're a southpaw, I'm going to be looking at what you do. And I want to pick your brain and try some of that stuff that you do in there. Okay? And if you're a student of the sport, race has nothing to do with it. It doesn't even matter how the people conduct themselves outside of the sport. Because my attention is focused. Your attention and focus as a somebody who's in boxing, your intention and focus is what they do in the ring. You don't really give a damn about what they do outside the ring. They could be racist for all I care. I want to know what they do inside the ring, because I'm not going to take away that from them. And I think too many times fight fans get caught up emotionally with what a fighter's antics or their behavior is outside the ring. When we look at Tyson Fury in the ring, what is he doing? When we look at Dontae Wilder in the ring, what is he doing? When we look at Canelo Alvarez in the ring, what is he doing? When we look at Floyd Mayweather in the ring, what is he doing? When we look at Tyson Fury in the ring, what is he doing? That should be your focus as a fight fan. And all that other stuff outside of the ring is, I mean, you can get involved in some sort of social discussion about it. But, and another thing that I really don't like, and I don't appreciate, is when fight fans cannot distinguish the difference between a narrative created by media and the reality of what a boxer thinks about them, their own selves. And I think that's something that fight fans cannot separate. So, for example, today, there's this lie that's been, been propagated for a while that Manny Pacquiao is an 8th division world champion, which is a lie. Okay, he's a 6th division world champion. But you can't blame Manny Pacquiao for that. That lie was created by the media out there. They circulated that. They made that become reality. Okay? Manny Pacquiao never claimed he was an 8th division champion. You never see Manny Pacquiao going around saying, I'm an 8th division world champion. He never said that. So you can't blame Manny Pacquiao. Let me give you another one. So, a fighter fights a fight. Two fighters fight a fight, right? The fight goes the distance. The judges give their scorecard decisions. The fighter wins a fight that we as fans, when we watch the fight, say, he didn't win that fight. He didn't win that fight at all. And the other fighter seems to be robbed. Why are we mad at the fighter that won the fight? We're not supposed to be mad at the fighter that won the fight. We should be mad at the judges. They're the one that got the fight wrong, not the fighters. They did what they were supposed to do. So we can't go and say, oh, this fighter, we don't like this fighter. I don't like Canelo. I don't like Oscar Valdez. I don't like this guy. I don't like that guy. Because they got decisions that they didn't, in all fight fans' mind, deserve. Why are we mad at the fighters? They did what they were supposed to do. They went in there and they fought. Now, if the fighter says, I believe I won the fight, even though he knows he lost the fight, that's totally different. Okay? And doesn't want to give the fighter a rematch. That's totally different. But then again, when you fight to win a fight, okay, sometimes you know that you're losing the fight, and you know that you lost the fight, and sometimes you don't, because you're in the heat of battle. You think you're winning a fight, okay? So sometimes I let's put the blame on the fighter. We need to put the blame on where it really belongs, which is the judges, because if it goes into their hands, they should do a good job of judging the fight. Right. So what I'm trying to say is that in boxing, as I always said, a fighter is a fighter is a fighter. It doesn't matter if it's a woman. It doesn't matter if it's a man. It doesn't matter if it's a black fighter. It doesn't matter if it's a white fighter. It doesn't matter if it's an Asian fighter. It doesn't matter if it's a Mexican fighter. It doesn't matter if it's a Puerto Rican fighter. A fighter is a fighter is a fighter. They're going to fight. Okay? So, ultimately, in the end, and fighters are special people. I was just, I put up another post in one of the boxing groups, and in my boxing group as well, speaking on the fact that memory loss is a serious problem with fighters. I was saying it's Alzheimer, because I noticed that a lot of boxers, later on in their lives, they suffer from Alzheimer's and they die. but it's not Alzheimer's. It's actually what is known as pugilistic dementia. All right, when you get hit in the head too many times, that repercussion, that effect, causes something called cerebral trauma, encephal oh my god, I can't even say it right now. Encephalopathy, okay, which is the breakdown of the brain due to trauma from punches, okay, the skull hitting the brain hitting the skull. And so, what does it have to do with anything? All boxers take that risk every time they enter the ring. The less punches you take to the head, the less punches you absorb, you know, clean, sharp, straight on punches you absorb, particularly to the head, to the brain, to the nervous system, the less damage you take, the better for you, the much more normal a life you can have. And if you listen to many boxers, they have a draw, and the draw gets more pronounced and more pronounced. And I think about certain fighters in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and they're losing their memory. They can't remember everything and things like that. And that's because, again, from damage due to trauma from boxing. And these are common things that all boxers share. All right? And let me show you another thing, so you can understand it's a different world when we talk about the world of a boxer. The world of a boxer is very, 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 very lonely. It's very, very isolated. You're going to have a lot of people around you, but boxers, you know, share a common bond with each other because they understand the life of a gladiator, the life of a warrior, the life of someone who has sacrificed everything to go to war in a ring. And so it has nothing, in my opinion, to do with race and ethnicity and class and creed and where you come from in the world, because all boxers have the same sort of mentality and mindset and just predisposition to be in sport, something like this. And they'll all tell you similar things. It's kind of like a fraternity of comedians. A comedian thinks a certain way. You know, they see the world a certain way. That's pretty strange. And so because of that, and sometimes some of them have neurosis and whatever, comedians will all come together and have a good time with each other. And that's because, and they'll have their little cliques or whatever, but a comedian's a comedian. So you have to understand that we need to stop looking at where somebody came from, or in judging them, in saying, oh well, this class of people and this class of no, don't do that, don't do that, because the boxing fraternity, I'm gonna say it again, the boxing fraternity is a special fraternity. It's a brotherhood of warriors. It's a brotherhood of fighters. You know, whether it was that, as children they fought in the streets and then they got some discipline, or whether it was that, they were involved in illegal activities and stuff, and then boxing pulled them out of that world where they would have probably surely been dead by now, or whether it is that they came from very impoverished, poor societies where the way out was to use your fists. Whatever way, it's a fraternity of people who have shared experiences regardless of language, creed, race, class, etc. And what people need to understand, the truth about boxing is this: that the fighter and the fighter only can truly understand what it is that they are participating in and putting themselves through. And we talk a lot about the elite ones, but there are many boxers all around the world practicing boxing. People looking for hope. Some people looking out of the situation. Some people because they want to stay healthy. Some people, they do it because, they fight professionally. I'm talking about professional. This is the way to make a living I'm talking about. Professionally fighting day after day or week after week. It was week after week. And they put themselves through this week after week. And you have to ask yourself, what human being in their right mind would look to punish another human being and be punished by another human being as a way of making a living? Think about what I'm saying. The mindset of a boxer is different to the mindset of a civilian. Just like the mindset of a military person is different to the mindset of a civilian. But a boxer, he gets the chance and opportunity to choose almost his destiny and how he wants to maneuver himself. And that's why mentorship and guidance is very important in boxing. So if you want to see what a tradition that goes thousands and thousands of years back and now is manifested in a modern form, it's boxing today. Okay, so right now my feet's cracking up a little bit, and unfortunately for me, my feet just kind of froze. But it is one of the oldest forms of sport, boxing. It's very, very old. It goes way before the Greeks, way before Greece, way before Greece started fighting. You know, we're going all the way back to Egypt, all the way back to, Mesopotamia, etc. But the truth be told is that, and Shakur is absolutely correct in checking Dontae's Boxing Nation and letting him know, hey man, don't do that. Don't throw me under the bus because I'm a fan of the sport and I'm talking about things in the sport and I'm an enthusiast of the sport. Don't throw me under the bus. I'm not trying to get Mexican fans. I do certain things because I'm just an enthusiast. And he said, I always show you your channels love. I always show the black culture love. I always let you guys get interviews with me. Don't do me that. And Shakur is right. I don't like that Dontae created these narratives on Shakur. And he just suddenly starts attacking Shakur. And trying to put Shakur in a bad light. Anybody who's with Jay Prince is for the culture. Okay? If Dontae don't realize that, but what, Shakur mustn't say anything good about any fighter that's not a black fighter? He's not commenting on the, he doesn't know what Bam Bam's actual lifestyle and all those things outside the ring is. He's commenting on Bam Bam in the ring. And he has a right to do so. Clarissa Shields does that. In fact, everybody in boxing does it. Caleb Plant congratulates Bam. He congratulated who was the other guy? Was it Jamel Charlo when he destroyed Castaño? They make comments on fighters, and if they want to go on at great length because they're so impressed with them, so be it. Okay, Bam is one of my favorite fighters too. Just because I'm a black person doesn't mean I can't have a favorite fighter that's not a black person like myself. I like Artur Beterbiev. I like Bivol. Staying on code shouldn't have to do with enjoying skill and ability. Okay? Why must I only like the fighters that are my color? Why must I only compliment the fighters who are of my race? That's stupid. Then I'm not a boxing fan. I'm a black boxing fan. I'm a fan of black boxers. That's all I am. So I don't understand where Dontae was going with this and why he's trying to trash Shakur Stevenson's reputation, trying to go down a certain road with him. I don't know why Dontae is doing that, and I think it's rather disingenuous because he's actually built his reputation off of Shakur being kind enough to let him get footage of certain things and so on. And I think Dontae should put out a public apology to Shakur to say, you know what, you're right about that. But if he continues his narrative, well, too bad for him, because Shakur is going to address him, as he said, with the same energy. Okay? Because you are ascribing to a person motives that they never personally had. Okay? And you're misrepresenting them. Now, it's one thing when you apologize, you pull down your video, and the video's still up to this day, You pull down your video, you say, you know what, I'm sorry about that. You contact the fighter and you let him know. And this is the thing about boxing. And that's why I said, and I kind of agree with Mike Tyson to a certain extent. Um, if people used to get checked by boxers, what I mean by that is punched in the face, if they say some shit about them, people wouldn't be so disrespectful for them. I was watching another video with Hackett from Philadelphia. He's a real dude. Um, Hackett. I can't remember his first name. And he said something that was very true. And I agree. And I'm not even a boxer. You know what I mean? I'm just a fan that box. He said, people do not understand what it takes and what boxers go through to even be a decent boxer in boxing today. Far less what the elite ones go through to be what they are. They don't understand. And I would like you guys to go, because a lot of people trash Ryan Garcia. A lot of people trash Danny Garcia. I would like you guys to go and watch one training regimen that Ryan Garcia does in his daily routine. And it's something that you could do. You may not have the machinery, but you can find a way. It's where you're doing resistance training. Okay? And I bet you none of y'all, not even including me, will be able to do those workouts. He did 10 rounds of intense training. 10 rounds of intense training. Freaking intense. Go check Ryan Garcia's channel. He has a channel on YouTube. Check out the training regimen. Alright? A lot of people, I'm going to go back to Floyd Mayweather because he's the gold standard. I'm going to use Andrew Ward with him. The people who have witnessed Floyd Mayweather train said they understand now why he's TBE. They understand now why he can't be beat. When they saw what he does on a regular, the routines, the drills, and how he goes from one drill to the next without taking a break or resting, they understood now why he was as good as he was. I'm going to talk about Andre Ward, another perfectionist, another guy inspired by Roy Jones Jr., Floyd Mayweather, and Bernard Hopkins' ridiculous work ethic. We're talking about perfectionists of work ethic. And I'm not saying that guys before them weren't perfectionists at their work ethic and weren't great at their work ethic either. But I'm saying these guys perfected certain things, right? So the dedication Bernard Hopkins has. And if you look at Bernard Hopkins today, he's finished boxing. He's blown up in weight. He's not out of shape. You look at Bernard Hopkins today, the discipline. Bernard Hopkins teach you discipline. The discipline he had while he was fighting is the same discipline he maintains. Floyd still got a little bit bigger. You know, Floyd's a little bit bigger. He's still in shape. But he's a little bit bigger than what he used to be. Hopkins is the same size, ladies and gentlemen. And the man is in shape. Now, they said, you know what people said? You know what fans said? They said this dude, he used some kind of PED to keep him in shape. Well, if you're using PEDs, especially illegal ones, they're going to have adverse effects on you at some point in your life. Right? Hopkins is in impeccable shape. You know? And all I'm saying is, why don't we learn from these people? Why don't we grow from these people? That's what Andre Ward grew and learned from Bernard Hopkins, from Roy Jones Jr., from Floyd Mayweather. Terrence Crawford learned and is growing from Andre Ward, Floyd Mayweather, and Roy Jones Jr. Shakur Stevenson is learning from Terrence Crawford, right? Floyd Mayweather, and whoever else, right? My point is that we as fans have gotten into what I coined it, the Larry Merchant syndrome, where we choose to go the muddy route and try to muddy up fighters and their careers. We're not interested, and that's why I go to tongue on fans so much. Y'all gonna have to excuse me on this channel, But the only way change happens is if you isolate the cancer that is destroying the mentality of people. And you purge that thing so that people can become inspired by these fighters. And we can address the problems in the system so that boxing can come back to a certain semblance of what it used to be in the 80s. But because it's evolving, I don't expect us to go backwards. I expect us to go forward and to get better. Because we have a younger fan base in boxing. A little kid from New Zealand, well, he's not little, he's 6 feet something, but a young kid from New Zealand watches my channel. My nephew watches my channel. They're the next generation of people. Maybe my nephew never becomes a fighter, but he boxes. A little kid, well, he's not little anymore, but a young man from New Zealand, 6'3", watches my channel all the time. You must understand what energy you put out there is what you will get back. So if you put out a negative energy like Larry Merchant used to do on boxing, it's going to die. Because the younger generation is not going to be interested in it. Because you keep on saying a lot of negative things about it. But if you become passionate and enthusiastic about, and you say you're passionate about a sport, then you're going to speak good things about it. And you're going to speak good things about the fighters in it. And we got to get back to that. And I have What You Need the channel for that reason. We need to stop with these stupid agendas that carry us nowhere. Or it is good to point out, and I'm not going to hate on Dontae's Boxing Nation because, again, I am a critical person. I think critically about channels. Dontae's Boxing Nation has done a lot of good for us in boxing. I also like Aki Sports TV. Again, they do a lot of good. But there are times when they make mistakes, like anybody else. And I'm glad that Shakur is checking Dontae on that. And hopefully Dontae will make his adjustments so that he doesn't pick out a young, promising black fighter to destroy, to do the Larry Merchant shit. I don't like it. Larry Merchant was a stain on boxing. He always saying something negative about boxers. And boxers are the attraction. That's what people come to see. They come to see fighters fight. And what he did was he narrowed down the way how fighting can be. I always appreciate the UK. Jim Watt, and several other announcers from the UK. Chris Oriole, amen, brother. I like them because they appreciate all different kinds and forms and styles of boxing. And they understand what's going on in that ring. I appreciate the UK fans because they have a lot more knowledge of the sport of boxing. And we have to, as fans, get to the point where we appreciate what we're seeing. Yes, there are going to be times. Shout out to Chris Oriole. Shout out to my brother here from another mother. There are going to be times where, and there's nothing wrong with being opinionated and sometimes even being wrong. Just acknowledge that you're wrong. Humility says, we're not perfect. We're human beings. We're going to make mistakes. So it's nothing wrong with saying, I was wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't take anything to do that. You're not going to lose credibility for it. People are going to trust you more because you show you're humble. And you show, hey, I could be wrong times. And there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, you want to get your information right almost all the time. But you're human. You make mistakes. The boxers make mistakes. We always hold these boxers to some I was looking at and where they come from. Where these boxers come from, there's so much growth from what they used to be. And a lot of people don't appreciate that. That these people, a lot of these people who end up in boxing came from very, sometimes, backgrounds that had zero morale. Like they didn't know what, it was about survival. Okay? And people cannot appreciate how far these boxers have grown as people. Hating is weak. They're kids, man. 50 emotional, your kids. Yeah, I agree. Boxing is a sport where people are emotionally charged and tied to it. And, I know that there are certain people in boxing who try to make it a mature sport and they speak certain language and vocabulary and so on. It's a subjective sport too, to some degree. So you're going to like who you like. All right? And there's nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying is don't bash. Don't bash because you don't like this fighter. I appreciate so much fans who constantly say positive things about the fighters they like. You're going to like who you like, and you should be able to speak as much as you want about who you like. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. And in boxing today, they erroneously call those people who are fans, fanboys. And they call the caustic, destructive people fans. Now, it's okay to criticize a fighter. I have critiques about, everybody thinks I'm a big Floyd Mayweather fan, which I am. I'm a big Floyd Mayweather fan. Okay? And he's not my favorite fighter right now. But I have critiques of him. I have things that you guys don't even know that I find are ridiculous about his career. In a negative way. Okay? And I think they are valid. As much as I can make an argument for him being TBE, I can make an argument for him not being TBE. I can do it. And a very convincing one. That'll convince all of you guys. No, he cannot be TBE. And I can give you a reason why. So I can make an argument for or against. And it won't be ridiculous. It'll be well thought out. And now when I finish saying it, you guys will say, that's kind of true. Chris Oriel says, these channels have no code. You can like a specific boxer, but that doesn't mean hating on others. Exactly. Now that right there that you just said is exactly the thing. You can compare two boxers. You can compare two boxers. Right? Analytically and objectively. And not hate on the two, and hate on one or the other. You can compare them without showing hate. When I see hate is when people say certain ridiculous phrases and words like, they you can tell they're throwing jabs. And on top of that, usually when they speak from emotion. There has no factual basis. It's all about opinion and emotion. Right? I had a really nice conversation online with a very knowledgeable boxing fan who boxed. So a real pro, a real expert in the sport of boxing. And one of the things we came to the conclusion is, and obviously this is well known in boxing, but nonetheless, is that if I am to say, we're talking about boxing different eras, right? If I am to say, fight a boxer from another era, it would be very, very impractical and almost impossible to do because of two major things. Boxers are a product of the era they come from. So if I'm to take a boxer out of one era and put him into another era, he's no longer the boxer that we once knew him as, because he's going to become the product of whatever that era is. Yeah? That makes sense? So this is why we do not, and this is an argument for why Floyd is not exactly TBE. Okay? He's TBE of his era. But to say he's TBE of all time, it's very difficult to do because you can't take a guy who was created from, the year 1980, what it was, 1985 to the present time, you can't take him from here and just move him like that into the year, say, 1940 to 1965, Sugar Ray Robinson's era. It changes everything. It changes everything. It's like me saying, I want to go back in time and see what, you can't do that because it'll change everything. Okay? So, just in that alone, it really doesn't make sense. What we do when we compare boxers is we leave them in their eras and we see how they performed in their eras. And then we kind of look at them and then we say, okay, so in his era, this was the guy that he went up against. And in his era, this is kind of like the equivalent of what he went up against that this guy in this era kind of like had. Okay? And then it's very unfair for me to pit a guy from the past against a guy from the present. And the reason I say that is because the guy in the present actually has access to more information than the guy in the past. No matter which way you go. If the guy from the past comes to the future, he's going to be in awe and shock at how different the future is. If a guy from the future goes to the past, he has knowledge of the future. So when he goes into the past, everybody's going to think of him as a god because he knows a lot more stuff. Because he comes from, it's not just boxing that he knows about all kinds of things. Like right now, we take it for granted that we can use a phone. I'm going to say it again. We use a phone to transmit information to the world. I am streaming from a phone, ladies and gentlemen. A phone! Do you know what a phone looked like in 1940? It was this huge thing that was on a wall. And you had to run these circular dial things. And you just go... Imagine somebody from the future going back to that time and telling people about these crazy things, and they're like, that's unbelievable. That never could exist. And it's the same thing with boxing. Boxing has evolved from then till now. Think of the phone. Think of the phone. Now I'm speaking to the world through this thing. That's how different knowledge and information has been from then to now. And don't tell me boxing is the same thing. It is not. Okay? And if you want a bigger exaggeration of the fact, look at now boxers today and go back and watch his boxers. I challenge you guys. Google, I'm not Google. Go on YouTube. And YouTube, if you want to do it right now, first footage of boxing. The first video footage of boxing. And you will see two guys throwing crazy hands at each other like wild animals. Their technique is terrible. Okay? And today, it's a whole different ball game. Right? And the reason is boxing has evolved. Okay? It has evolved. So, the knowledge on boxing is tremendously worlds and worlds different than the knowledge that used to be in the past. So I don't like comparing and pitting guys from different eras against each other and all that kind of nonsense, because quite frankly, it's just completely different. And on top of that, being a product of something. So my point being this, so I can get back to the point I'm making, is that a lot of times we as fans are somewhat disconnected from the world that is a fighter's world, a professional fighter's world. We're disconnected from that. And so for us to kind of identify with the fighter, we start with class and race and country, and that's cool. But you got to understand, those are superficial things. You have to get in there. Day after day, you're in the gym with that fighter. You spar with that fighter. You train with that fighter. And when you start to feel how hard and difficult that aspect of it is, and then you got to go through the negotiations to get a fight with that fighter. And then you have to see how they work through their channels, the manager and the promoter, and how things work out to understand the world of a fighter. how they interact with the media, and so on and so on. But tools like weapons in the wrong hands is the worst thing that can happen. We have kids ruling this world just like boxing channels. Well, social media, my brother, it's it's a different world. It's just a different world now, you know. And the point being, I agree with you. And that basically, you're saying in the wrong hands. You know, a lot of people don't know shit about boxing. That's why I have to get get a couple pro fights under my belt. I can't tell y'all everything I want to do yet. You know what the plan is, but the first step in the plan is to get a couple pro fights under my belt. And that's why I train. That's why I spar. Not spar. I don't spar yet. I shadow box. I run little foot drills. You know, I do various little things here. But I got to do it because, see, I believe if you want to ask questions to a fighter, then you got to be able to ask the questions that really matter. You know? And I think if you are a really good journalist, you will ask the questions that matter, that wins that fighter's trust over to you. You know, as jokey as Ellie Sackback is, Ellie Sackback stays in the gyms with fighters. He's there with them. You know, even when they wasn't popular and when they was coming up, you know, he stays in the gyms with them. He watched them train. When he gets a chance, he give them a little shine. What Ellie did, which I always appreciated, he showed the human side to a fighter. They got a chance to show themselves as human beings. You got to see them do the daily grind. You got to see the trainers too. You got to feel what it's like to be in that world. And, you know, it's not just about sound bites. It's about seeing and understanding fighters as people. You know, 24/7 that Floyd Mayweather used to do with HBO gave you a certain perception of a fighter, right? But I want people to understand the daily and how fighters are just normal people like you and me in some respects, but in other respects they're not nothing like us. Nothing like us. But they're strong-minded people. Even the not so famous fighters, you start off with the ones that became world champion. Out of hundreds of thousands of people on this planet, we're talking a handful of people become world champion. A handful. And what it takes to become that is a mindset. Chris Oriel says, I can't tell that Dontae boxing likes boxing. No way. He likes green, not black. All my black friends can't even listen to this guy. Well, Dontae, I like Dontae. His son is, he's boxing. I think one of his sons boxes. And his son is half Filipino, half black. It's cool. I mean, I'm not mad at Dontae. Dontae say a lot of good things. You know, he was the guy kind of, when I was coming up in 2010, thereabouts, you know, I used to listen to Dontae. He wasn't Boxing Nation at the time. He was just Dontae something. His surname, I forgot what his surname is. I listen to Dontae on occasion. I don't want to listen to him all the time. I listen to him on occasion, and he does make sense with some things that he says. Some things, again, I don't agree with him on. And again, with all things in life, different people have their views and opinions. You listen to them, you know what I mean? And the things you agree with, you agree with. The things you don't agree with, you just don't agree with. And that's it. That's okay. You know, in life, you know, we don't agree on everything, right? So it's okay. I'm not mad at nobody. I listen to as many, you know, boxing outlets out there. I don't agree with some people. Some people are just straight up assholes, and I just don't listen to them at all. And there really are people like that. There really are people who are just assholes in this world. Don't try to understand them. You know, they're just being assholes. You know what I mean? So, you know, the different people I listen to. I try to listen to different people with different perspectives. I listen to different boxing channels. So, you know, I'm just saying, and there's some new ones coming up, and, you know, a lot of new channels coming up, and there's a lot of interest from younger people, you know, 20 something year olds, you know, teenagers who are interested in boxing. And that's really awesome. You know what I mean? Because um, it was MMA was taking over for a while, and now boxing kind of coming back. It's kind of coming back because it's kind of twinned with MMA. You know, that crossover fight that Floyd had with Conor, and then the Jake Paul stuff with MMA fighters getting into boxing, and then with Vito Belfort, you know, Holly Holmes, you know, what's his name? Um, um, y'all know who I'm talking about. The MMA, the legendary MMA fighter who's boxing now. I think he beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Anderson Silva, you know. And then we got Carissa Shields crossing over to MMA. We got Samantha Amanda Serrano, sorry, crossing over to MMA. So, you know, the boxing MMA is kind of coming together. You know, and that's a beautiful thing, because when combat sports can come together like that, I mean, I'm not a big MMA fan. I don't really watch MMA, but still, it's just nice to see that happen, because see, what's happening is that's helping, you know, people who may be MMA fans to cross over to boxing. Conor McGregor kind of took MMA fans, and Floyd kind of carried some of those MMA fans over to boxing. So some of the MMA fans, even though, you know, old media was saying that, you know, that wasn't so, that fight actually helped, you know, boxing, in that it helped people to see, hey, boxers can do this. Boxing can do that. When it comes to boxing, boxing kind of interesting. You know, this boxer beat an MMA guy who I thought would have beaten him, and stuff like that, you know. But this channel only talk about one or two boxers because that's what they're getting money. Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, like I said before, I'm not really, like I said before, I'm not too much into Dontae's Boxing Nation, all those things. I do watch my boy at Key Sports TV as well. I know he's kind of linked up to Dontae's Boxing Nation. He does his thing on Dontae's as well. So I ain't got nothing. I really ain't got no hate towards Dante's. If you understand what I'm saying, you know, he kind of played a role in barbershop conversations. You know, my boy Blue Blood Sports TV. You know, these guys they make their contributions. You know, I don't really mess around too much more with the kid name from Oakland area, the Bay Area. I forgot what his name is. I don't really mess around too much with them so much anymore, but it don't mean, I mean, they kind of contributed their role in their way, you know, of doing things. Me personally, um, race baiting is even worse because it influences their own bloods. Yeah, you could play the race game at times, but what I would say is this: I would say that I'm glad that they kind of came around and they were in existence. I'm not against the channels and what they do, you know, but I'm glad it kind of opened the door for other channels, other small channels, to do their thing on boxing as well. So we got, you know, and Blue Blood Sports TV particularly, I find him to be pretty neutral. I kind of like his channel. And then you got also Champ Side, and there's a number of channels out there. Of course, Fight Hype, been around forever. But then you also have other channels that I really like Paulie's TV. I still fuck with Paulie. You know, I like Pro Box TV. They got a nice little thing going on. And again, Pro Box TV is mostly boxers talking about boxing. I like my boy K9 Bundridge. You know, K9 got his channel going. I don't have to agree with everything the channel's doing, but I just like that they're coming out with their channels and they're doing their thing. You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah, I got you, Chris Oriole. I know what you mean. I know what you're saying. Again, I'm not like I have a filter, so I filter what actually, because I took something from Aki Sports TV, Aki Sports TV, and I put it up in one of those groups that I was in. You know, I take things from different places. Um, but what I'm saying is that you know, I'm not going to be just exclusive to certain channels. Like I also check out my boy, Ring TV guy, Michael something. He be actually boxing. Cause Ness and the Boxing Voice. You know, I like them as well. I even look at my boy, what's his name? I don't always agree with everything he say, but he be on the money these days. What's his name? Uh, shit. I forgot what his name is. I still watch him. That's crazy. Ringside reporter with ringside reporter with what's his name? Beeb, Joe Beeb. You know, I check out all them dudes, man. I check out all those dudes. You know, I support those channels where I can. When they say something that makes sense, I ride with it. There's also Wayne or whatever his name is. And there's a kid from Michigan. I listen to him. I don't always agree with what he says, but again, you get some things from different people, in the different boxing forums, and then of course, the channel that I always highly recommend everybody watches Master Boxing with Coach Eric Bradley. You know what I mean? Um, of course, world class boxing with the trainer of Paul Spadafora. Y'all need to check out them channels because them channels literally teach boxing. You know what I mean? But you know, uh, I ain't got nothing but I don't have no hate towards no channel per se. There was some channels back in the day. I think Boxing Librarian or one of them guys who didn't know shit about boxing. He had good boxing history, but he ain't know shit about boxing. I don't mess with them guys, too much. But EJ Boxing Live, that's a channel that I always still like EJ. EJ always fuck with me. I fuck with EJ. Um, you know, those kinds of guys I mess with more. And for me, because I definitely do want to delve into boxing in a much more deeper way. If I ever, I had an interview with Lonnie B recently, Lionel Thompson, who's an actual boxer, and he's been, on the lips of different people. We trying to get the word around. If you guys can, I'm gonna try and contact one or two more channels, see if he can't get some interviews. Lonnie B can't get some interviews with those channels because Lonnie B came off a great win against Jose Oscategui, and hopefully he can land either the David Benavidez fight, Jesse Hart fight, or maybe even the this kid who's hot right now. What's his name? Puerto Rican kid at 168. We try to get Lonnie B some fights, man. If we climb long enough, Lonnie B might be able to get a fight or two. And another guy who's near and dear to my heart is, of course, you know, what's his name? He's near and dear to my heart. True Sports TV, by the way. I also subscribe to him. Okay. Demetrius Andre. That's a near and dear guy to my heart. Don't hear him too much. Don't hear about him much. He just be kind of up and down. I don't know what's going on with him. I'm kind of concerned about him as well. I would like to see him, either face with the kid name from Gennady Golovkin's country. It'll come to me. Johnny Beck. I like to see him against Johnny Beck. If he can't get no big up fight, face Johnny Beck. You know what I mean? That's like Triple G. Let's see what you could do. You say you want to face Triple G. Well, here's a Triple G like fighter. You know what I mean? Johnny Beck. Let's get it. I think he's southpaw too. Let's get it, baby. You know what I mean? So Demetrius Andrew versus Johnny Beck would be a good fight. If he can't get nothing else, I mean, what's he doing? Is he vacating? Is he going up? I don't know what Andre's doing right now, and I would like to know. I would like to interview him. You know what I mean? But I have a lot of respect for fighters. A lot of people don't realize I have respect for fighters, past, present, and future. A lot of respect, a lot of love for fighters. A lot of people think that I was a Duran hater. I'm not a Duran hater. I don't hate Roberto Duran. I love Roberto Duran. But I know what he could do, and I know what he can't do, and so I just talk about him like that. And I gotta be truthful about his history, but don't get it twisted. I ain't no Larry Merchant. You know what I mean? I'm not no Larry Merchant. I don't disrespect boxers. I'm just saying the one is Xavier or something, Puerto Rico. Yeah, he's from he's a lightweight, I think, super lightweight. He's a super lightweight. You talking about Zandes? Is it Xavier Zandes? He a bad boy. He still got some work to do, but he a bad boy. Yeah, he got some work to do though. But you gotta. It's not him though. I was talking about 168 pounder. I can't remember the guy's name for nothing right now, but it'll come to me. They was thinking of, and I'm not talking about the Cuban kid, which is Morel. I'm not talking about David Morel either. David Morel, I think he still needs some work. I mean, he already is I think he's the number one contender for Canelo's title already. David Morel, yeah, crazy, yeah. But they were talking about Morel versus Benavidez. It's too early for Morel to face Benavidez. I would like to see David Benavidez against like a Lionel Thompson. Lionel Thompson could thump, boy. That right hand, whew, that right hand is a problem. And he can box. I would love to see him against Benavidez. That would be a good fight. Yeah, 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 for sure, for sure. If not Benavidez, him against Benavidez, him against like a Gabe Rosado, him against him against a Danny Jacobs, you know. But Lionel Thompson, man, tremendous, tremendous, tremendous fighter. Now moving down to 168. So hopefully we can see some more good fights from him. He's training his ass off, and he's promoting himself on Facebook. Hopefully we could get him to break through. True Sports Media also talked about him. So hopefully we can see him in a nice good fight soon. Yes, that's the name, Belanga. Yeah, maybe him versus Belanga. That's what True Sports was saying. Maybe him versus Belanga. That'll be a good test for Belanga. A really good test for Belanga. Trust me, that'll be a good test for Belanga. Cause Thompson ain't no joke. I'm telling you, man. He ain't no Lonnie ain't no joke. He's an interesting fighter. An interesting fight for anybody. And he's 36, but he young. I mean, I'm way older than him. I'm looking to still get into the sport. So, yeah. So that's what I wanted to let you guys know because Shakur checked Dontae. I'm not against Dontae, like I said before. Dontae is my dude. I like Dontae, but sometimes Dontae go overboard, and I'm glad that Shakur checked him. Hopefully he apologizes or he lets Dontae, or he talks with Dontae or something. Shakur, he talks with Shakur because Shakur will check him. If Shakur sees him in public, he will check him. You know what I mean? But Dontae has contributed a lot, in my opinion, to the sport and where we are at right now. So, and he has been right about a couple things. So, and I also speak on, because there's literally documentaries on this race and boxing and how we've come a long way, but yet we have not quite. I think kind of morphs into different versions. But again, shout out to everybody. It's so good. Daniel Rodriguez, what's up? Good fight, good fight. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I would love to see that fight. I would love to see Berlanga versus Lionel, or I'd like to see Lionel versus Benavidez, Lionel Thompson versus a Danny Jacobs or a Gabe Rosado or David Lemieux. Or David Lemieux versus him. Even though I don't think David Lemieux should box on, to be honest with you, I think that's disaster. I think you're gonna get hurt real bad. Benavidez, that'll be a good test for Benavidez. No, Benavidez ain't no joke, y'all. Benavidez, what I mean by that is, he is definitely sharpening up his craft skills. I'm really respecting him now. He's sharpening up his craft skills. I don't think he beats Canelo, but still at the same time, he is sharpening it up. So, man, and this kid is what, 24, 25 at most? He's young. So, I mean, two-time world champion already. So we're looking forward to seeing what David Benavidez will bring in store. I like David Benavidez, and see if he can move along. See if he can get past, some stiffer challenges. Daniel Rodriguez says he will fight anyone, not scared to lose. See, the thing about it is though, David Benavidez don't think about losing. Like, there's a quote from Aaron Pryor talking about how if you're thinking of losing in any shape, way, or form, you're going to lose. A champion, a guy going into battle, a guy going into fight, he's not thinking about losing. It's just nowhere in his mind. There's no doubt in his mind that he's going to win because he trained. He prepared himself. So, you know, there's a I don't know. There's a what's the word I'm looking for? There's a there's a thought out there that certain fighters or certain boxers, they were afraid to lose. Like they were afraid to lose. They were afraid to lose their undefeated status, or whatever. It never was the case. Now, some boxers, because they're limited fighters, know that a certain style will get them problems because they probably lost already. So losing is in their minds. But when you're talking about a fighter who's going into the ring, you can't have that kind of, you can't have no doubts in your mind about what you're about to do. You have to, if you have doubts in your mind, you're going to lose. You're vulnerable to lose. Okay? And I'm going to explain something else to you guys because I think this is very important for people to understand. And I think this is the most important thing I could give anybody. Whenever you are practicing anything, try your best to get it right. To get it as right as possible as you're doing it. You'll go through a process where finally you will know how to throw shots or block shots or get out of the way of shots as perfectly as possible. And once that is established, then you repeat that. That's what you repeat. You don't repeat doing wrong things because wrong habits are hard to break. The reason why certain fighters won all their fights, whether it's Ward, Mayweather, Kazaki, Rocky Marciano, Ricardo Lopez to some degree, but he kind of drew one, Ike Abeabuche, all these fighters that you guys talk about, that it's not because they were afraid of anything. It's because of repetition and they were repeating the right way to do something. Because they did what they needed to do correctly, they ended up where they were. You look at any fighter who has taken an L, and you go back and you look at it, there is something they didn't do right, which is why they got the L. Okay? Whether it's the defense or when you're boxing, I'm a southpaw. So my phone will be right here, right? My phone will be right here. You know what a lot of guys do? They put this down. That's why they get open for the left hook. A lot of them. Okay? And that's bad habits. A lot of them stick the jab out there and they don't bring it back. Bad habits. A lot of them, they got their hands in tuck, but then they relax and they bring their hands forward so the body's open. Bad habits. Right? Some of them don't keep their hands up. They suddenly get so good that they keep their hands down. Bad habits. Some of them drop the shoulder too low. Bad habits. You understand what I'm saying? If you do what you're supposed to do, you get the job done. That's why you don't focus on your opponent. You focus on your personal self-development. The thing about boxing is like life is don't bother to gossip about your neighbor or focus on your neighbor. Focus on yourself. That's boxing. So, the guys who focused on themselves and focus on the task in front of them, not the one next after that, because if you go focus on the one next after that, you get Manny Pacquiao'd. Let me say it again. If you go focusing on something way in the future when you got an immediate pressing thing in front of you, you get Manny Pacquiao because you focus on the wrong thing. Okay? Life lessons. You get it straight from boxing. So I love boxing, man. I love boxing. And those guys, they practice doing the right thing. And so because of that, they was able to win all their fights. Okay? You do the right thing and you keep doing the right thing over and over and over again, you won't make mistakes. I hear people say, well, all you got to do is make one mistake and Deontay Wilder will take you out. Tyson Fury made a lot of mistakes. Didn't get taken out. You know why? Because he put in the work and he did the right thing. So when he did get hit with a shot, yeah, he got knocked down, but he got back up. Because you got to be prepared. Because anything can happen in that ring. Anything. You could twist your leg. You could dislocate a shoulder. Yeah? You could get punched in the chin and you get dazed. You got to know what to do when those situations arise. So, that's what sparring's for. Yeah? That's what sparring's for. So yeah, people get knocked down in sparring. Some people, they get knocked out in sparring, some people. Okay? But it's to prepare you. You got to be under that pressure cooker. You got to get the heat coming at you. I'm not saying that's all sparring is, but I'm just saying. If you fight the best, you're going to get a beating someday. If you stay too long. Everyone has a hole, brother. Yeah, but if you do what you're supposed to do, you know, those windows of opportunity come and they go. You see what I'm saying? Everybody can be beaten on any given day. All right? Anything is possible in boxing. That's why you don't take boxing for granted. You can't fall asleep. You can't take for granted anything. Having said that, boxing rewards the well prepared. If you are more prepared than the other guy, you're going to win. You're going to win because you're more prepared than the other guy. That's just the way how it works. You put in the work, hard work, dedication, you put in the work. Of course, you got to be doing the right things. But if you put in the work, and you work harder than everybody else, you're going to win. Boxing is one-on-one. They're looking to exploit your open weaknesses. Right. And everybody got weaknesses. The question is, can you exploit them? Right? And that's the whole point behind it. Everybody's a human being. Everybody's fallible. But you got, you got to be able to, everybody's open for a punch at some point. You know, I don't know any boxer that ever goes through any fight, an entire fight, and has never been touched. Period. Never been hit at all. It's not, I mean, with money punches. That's not, I never heard of that. So my point being, you're going to get hit. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the fact that in boxing, boxing will reward, this one thing is very true, boxing will reward the focused and the dedicated. It will reward you. Okay? The focused and the dedicated. A lot of very, very gifted fighters never make it to the elite level. Some of them never make it to the pros. They get killed off from the streets. They get destroyed. They die. They get stabbed and killed and shot before they can even make it to that level. You know, if you ever watch Nelson the Boxing Voice, he said there's so many talented and very skilled fighters who we never hear about. They do one or two fights in the pros and then they disappear. Or they're great in the gym, but when it comes to under the lights, they just can't translate. You see what I'm saying? And it's amazing because, y'all think certain fighters, the big name fighters are the best fighters that you'll ever see. No, this guy is better than them. Better than them. Under certain conditions, they're better than them. You see? But it takes more than that. It's not just about, can you box? You got to have the right team around you. The right set of people around you who really are interested in your career and not putting you in compromising situations for small money. And as we're talking about this, Um, hold on a second. Just want to see what you guys are saying. Sergio Martinez always said fights are won in the gym. Yes, sir. Preparation. Preparation. No doubt about it. And some guys, they look crappy in the gym. They look crappy in the gym. But they come out on the big lights. One of the guys is Vince Phillips. I talked about Vince Phillips. Crappy in the gym. He look getting beat up all the time. When he goes under the bright lights, man, he a different fighter. Um, so I just wanted to talk about that. You know, Shakur's response to Dontae. No disrespect to Dontae, Boxing Nation. I like what Dontae does, but once again, sometimes Dontae need to be careful about what he says, especially about fighters. You know, it's one thing if I'm a fan, but if I have a tremendously big platform, I have to be a lot more responsible for what I say about fighters, and even what I say about key people in boxing. I have to be careful because the youngsters coming up are going to listen to me, and they're gonna go with what I say, right? And remember, there are new eyes on this sport now. It's not just the usual people that are in. The new eyes watching these YouTube videos. I may not get the views, feedback that I should get, but I'm just saying. I see Ennis as one of those unique fighters. Absolutely, everybody sees it now. Jerome Ennis is a phenomenal fighter. His father is crazy too, man. His father's 65 years old, and that man's still boxing like if he's he got a beautiful jab. Got a beautiful jab. You know what I mean? Vince was a killer. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Vince Phillips was a killer, man. So I don't want to have to cut right now, but I think I may have to cut right now. I'm just saying. Oh, there was one more thing I wanted to say. That has, again, I'm covering so many different things, but another thing I wanted to say that has nothing to do with this topic per se, but anyway. A lot of times, fighters have goals. And they're very passionate and very hungry until they become world champion. And as soon as they become world champion, a lot of fighters lose that hunger. Because now they gotten a certain amount of money and they've reached a certain point in their careers. I'm going to talk about a couple of them. You know, I love J. Rock Williams, but after J. Rock Williams became champion, it was like that was the worst thing that could ever happen to him. You know what I mean? I haven't seen my boy. What's going on with my boy J. Rock Williams? I haven't seen anything with Julian. Nobody's talking about Julian Williams. What's going on with Julian Williams? All right. Another dude, Jarrett Hurd. Last fight he had, he lost it. Last fight J. Rock Williams had, he lost it. Where's the hunger? Where's the fire, guys? We got to get that momentum back. Hopefully they can. And the point being, and I love these fighters. All of these fighters I love. I don't have nothing. I have no hate in my heart for these fighters. But sometimes the success and the fire that you will have all your career, since the amateurs to the present time, all that fire, it kind of gets outed by attaining the prize. Because sometimes you say one thing, but you really don't mean it. Meaning to say, you say, when I become world champion, that's not going to be enough. I will set the second goals, and I'll go to try and retain championship and blah, 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 blah. You say that until you get the stuff that comes with that. And you get comfortable. And once you get comfortable, you saw what happened with Andy Ruiz. Once you get comfortable, now you're not pressing no more like you used to. Mentally, you're not the same place you used to be. And that's because you became satisfied. You felt accomplished. And somewhere in the back of the mind it clicked. And now you're not pushing like you used to. And the hunger's not there anymore because you got some money. And I'm hoping that J. Rock Williams could get back that hunger that he had when he didn't have no world title. I'm hoping that they would stay hungry, because that's the only way you could push yourself to the limit. It's specifically not just going through routines and motions, but thinking about the situations that you will be presented with, and keeping that focus on winning every single fight from here on in. Hard work and dedication ain't no easy thing because it's a mental thing as well. To stay dialed in and zone in and focus all the time. You know, I listened to young Devin Haney. Devin Haney's like what, 23, 24 years of age? I think 23 years of age. And he was saying, you know, he accomplished undisputed, and it still didn't register for him. For him, it's about keeping it going because that never was his destination. He never saw it as the end point. He never got comfortable with that. And Devin Haney's been a multi-millionaire for the longest while. And he wasn't comfortable with that. You know what I'm saying? And that's the mentality you have to be a legend in the sport of boxing. You cannot be satisfied and feel you've beat your chest and feel you accomplished something, you know, and that's it. Otherwise, you have to have that fire to want to be the best. The best you could be. And so, I root for these fighters. I root for Adrian Broner in a special way. You know, I know he has to face, I forgot what the kid's name is right now. That's terrible. Two-time world champion. What's his name? Oh, man, come on. Anyways, he has to face that kid. And, you know, I'm rooting for him. Because it's another volume puncher. Another volume fighter he's going to be up against. And that's a good Omar Figueroa. That's the name. And Omar Figueroa, man. Omar Figueroa throws like hundreds and hundreds of punches around. So, Chris Oriel says, man, I could relate somehow. They were poor and now they're rich. Yeah, so they kind of take the foot off the pedal. You know, they try to take a breather. But sometimes your foot never comes back on the pedal. You know, like they say, they're silk sheets, man. Them silk sheets will make you lazy. And I can relate with that as well. But yeah, Omar Figueroa and Adrian Broner, I'm hoping for the best for Adrian Broner. You know, he was saying that he needed Floyd's help with the boxing game. So hopefully Floyd's helping him out. I know that Floyd's helping him out. You know, y'all don't even have to tell me that. You know, I know Floyd and Gervonta Davis help out Adrian Broner all the time. Okay? So, more than likely Floyd's helping him out. I'm going to catch y'all guys later. And of course, GT was helping out Adrian Broner before too. So, Adrian taking on a monumental task based on the fact that he's not really a volume puncher like that. He's going to have to let his hands go. He's going to have to keep his defense tight. Hopefully he's been training, you know, staying in shape and stuff. Because this is not a guy. I mean, Omar Figueroa throws punches and bunches. Omar Figueroa don't slow down. Omar Figueroa got an engine like nobody's business. So, I mean, Dennis Ugas beat Omar Figueroa. But Adrian Broner beating Omar Figueroa, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for him. He's going to have to let his hands go. You know what I mean? If he doesn't do that, Omar Figueroa is going to win that fight. Just off of sheer volume. Broner is good. I'm not saying he isn't. You know, I'm not saying Broner is not good. You know, I just hope that you know, I just hope for the best for him. You know what I mean? I hope for the best for him. I like to see him get you know, he has gotten 1 or 2 wins since the Pacquiao loss. And I think he's drawn 1 fight or something like that. I would like to see him win. But I'm also rooting for Omar because Omar lost his last fight as well. So, you know, I like both guys. See, the thing with me in boxing is I like a lot of boxers. I mean, who doesn't like a lot of boxers? I mean, if you like boxing, you're going to like most of the boxers in boxing. You know what I mean? So, we got some upcoming fights. Derek Chisora versus Kubrat Pulev. That's actually an underratedly good fight. You know, AJ versus Usyk. Probably at the end of this year, Ricky Hatton may come back against Marco Antonio Barrera. I still want to see that fight. So hopefully they didn't call it off. I know it was supposed to be in June, but it looks like it's going to be down in November now. No other options. Yeah. Those are good fights. Of course, Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor, part two. Triple G versus Canelo Alvarez. That's going to be in September. It looks like we are coming closer and closer to getting that announcement for Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence. Can't wait for that fight either. That's going to be a good fight. Oh my gosh, that's going to be a tremendous fight. Yeah, he's got to. Adrian Broner got to let those hands go, bro. You got to let those hands go. Um, I would also like to see at the end of this year we may see Ryan Garcia versus Tank Davis. Depends on how Ryan Garcia does against Javier Fortuna. You know what I mean? Um, that would be a tremendous fight as well. Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury looks like it's in jeopardy. Tommy Fury talking about he got banned. Jake Paul telling him to contact his lawyers. So that's another good fight. I would love to see because that would be Jake Paul's first pro boxer, and let's see how he performs against Tommy Fury. I would just like to see that. Um, I would like to also see upcoming upcoming fight between Clarissa Shields versus Savannah Marshall. It's a good ass fight coming up there. Can't wait for that fight either. So there's a lot of fights. I mean, a lot of good fights on the horizon still to come this year. Um, and I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait. You know, as a boxing fan, I love this kind of stuff. Um, Anyways, man, guys, I'm gonna catch you guys later. I am what you need. You guys always watch my channel. Thank you so very much for coming through again. And Chris Oriole, shout out to you, brother, as well as shout out to Chris Oriole. Be talking with me a lot. Daniel Rodriguez as well, man. I'm gonna catch you all guys later. I am what you need. Peace out.